From a cluster of villages on the banks of the Tiber to an empire that stretched from Britain to Mesopotamia, Rome's story is one of ambition, adaptation, and transformation. For over 1,000 years, the Roman state shaped the course of Western civilization, establishing legal systems, architectural principles, and political ideas that endure to this day. How did a single city come to dominate the Mediterranean world? And what forces brought about the slow disintegration of the greatest empire antiquity had ever known? This is the entire history of the Roman Empire. Chapter 1. From Kings to Republic. The origins of Rome lie shrouded in myth, though tradition places its founding in 753 BC by Romulus, the first of 7 kings who ruled for nearly 2.5 centuries. These early monarchs transformed Rome from a pastoral settlement into a fortified urban centre. By the late 6th century BC, the concentration of power in royal hands had grown intolerable to the Roman aristocracy. In 509 BC, the last king was expelled, and the Roman Republic was born, a system designed to prevent tyranny through the distribution of power among elected magistrates, particularly the 2 annually elected consuls. The early republic was defined by internal struggle and external conflict. Patricians monopolized political office, while plebeians fought for representation. Through the conflict of the orders, common citizens gradually won the right to elect tribunes and access the highest offices of state. The Senate evolved into the Republic's most powerful institution, guiding foreign policy and embodying Roman continuity. Meanwhile, Rome's legions waged relentless wars against neighboring peoples, extending Roman influence throughout Italy. Rome's greatest test came against Carthage, the maritime power that dominated the Western Mediterranean. The 3 Punic Wars transformed Rome from a regional power into a dominant Mediterranean force. The Second War saw Hannibal lead his army across the Alps into Italy, inflicting catastrophic defeats on Roman forces. Yet Rome refused to surrender. Through resilience and superior organization, the Romans eventually prevailed. By 146 BC, Carthage had been destroyed and its territory absorbed into the growing Roman state. Chapter 2. The Republic's collapse. Victory over Carthage brought immense wealth, but it flowed disproportionately to the senatorial elite and powerful generals. Conquered territories flooded Italy with slaves, displacing small farmers who had formed the backbone of the Roman military. Landless citizens migrated to Rome, becoming dependent on grain distributions and political patronage. The Senate fractured into competing factions driven by personal ambition. Military commanders recognized that loyalty was owed not to the state, but to soldiers who expected land and rewards. Generals such as Marius and Sulla turned their armies against Rome itself. Civil war became a recurring feature of Roman life, and republican institutions proved incapable of containing ambitious men who commanded legions. Into this chaos stepped 3 figures whose alliance would shape the Republic's final decades. Pompey, Crassus, and Julius Caesar formed the first triumvirate in 60 BC. Caesar's conquest of Gaul brought him fame and a loyal army. When the Senate ordered him to disband his legions, Caesar refused. In 49 BC, he crossed the Rubicon with his army, plunging Rome into civil war. He emerged victorious but was assassinated in 44 BC by senators hoping to restore the Republic. They failed. Caesar's death triggered another round of wars, culminating in the rise of his heir, Octavian, later known as Augustus. Chapter 3. The Principate and the Height of Empire. Augustus understood that Rome would no longer tolerate open monarchy. He constructed a system preserving republican appearances while concentrating real authority in his hands. He styled himself Princeps, the first citizen, controlling the army, provinces, and treasury while allowing the Senate to continue meeting. This principate brought stability after a century of chaos. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome entered the Pax Romana, a period of relative peace during which trade flourished and Roman culture spread. The empire reached its greatest extent under Trajan in the early 2nd century AD, stretching from Britain to Egypt, from the Atlantic to the Euphrates. Roman roads, aqueducts, and fortifications connected distant provinces, while Roman law governed millions. Latin became the lingua franca of the West, Greek of the East. Roman citizenship gradually extended throughout the empire, completed in 212 AD, when Caracalla granted citizenship to all free inhabitants. Yet beneath this unity lay profound tensions. The empire was not a single nation, but a collection of disparate peoples held together by military force. Provincial elites were co-opted into the Roman system, but local cultures persisted. The army became increasingly composed of non-Italians, and legions' loyalty shifted from the emperor to their commanding generals. Imperial succession repeatedly plunged the empire into crisis, and the 3rd century witnessed dozens of claimants rising and falling in rapid succession. But before we examine the forces that would fracture this vast state, we must understand a quieter transformation taking place within its borders, one that would reshape not only Rome, but the entire future of Europe. Chapter 4: Crisis, Division, and Transformation. The 3rd century crisis nearly destroyed Rome. Between 235 and 284 AD, more than 50 men claimed the imperial title, most elevated by their troops and overthrown within years. Frontiers came under relentless pressure from Germanic tribes and the Persian Empire. Plague decimated the population. The economy collapsed as currency devalued, causing rampant inflation. Order was restored by soldier emperors who recognized the empire had become too large for single rule. Diocletian divided the empire into eastern and western halves, initiating sweeping reforms. Constantine took these changes further, issuing the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, granting legal status to Christianity. He refounded Byzantium as Constantinople, establishing it as the new Eastern capital. Christianity's rise fundamentally altered Roman society. What began as a marginal sect spread rapidly through cities, appealing to the poor, women, and slaves with its message of spiritual equality. By the 4th century's end, Christianity became the state religion. The church, with its own hierarchy and resources, became a parallel authority structure that would outlast Rome's political institutions. The empire continued fragmenting. In 395 AD, the division between East and West became permanent. The western half, burdened by economic decline and barbarian incursions, steadily lost coherence. Germanic tribes crossed the Rhine and Danube in increasing numbers. Western emperors, often figureheads controlled by powerful generals, proved unable to stop the disintegration. Chapter 5: The Fall of the West and Rome's Legacy. In 410 AD, the Visigothic king Alaric sacked Rome, an event that shocked the Roman world and symbolized imperial decline. Western provinces were carved into independent Germanic kingdoms. In 476 AD, Odoacer deposed the last Western emperor, Romulus Augustulus. This date marks the traditional fall of the Western Empire, though collapse had been underway for centuries. The Eastern Empire survived, centered on Constantinople. This Byzantine empire retained a functional bureaucracy, professional army, and control over wealthy eastern provinces, enduring another 1,000 years until conquered by the Ottomans in 1453. The fall of the West did not erase Rome's legacy. Latin remained the language of church, law, and learning throughout medieval Europe. Roman law, codified by Justinian, became the foundation of continental legal systems. Roman architectural techniques were emulated by successor states. The idea of Rome as a universal empire haunted medieval imagination, inspiring efforts to recreate or claim succession to its authority. Rome's story is not simply rise and fall, but transformation and continuity. The structures it built, ideas it propagated, and institutions it developed were absorbed and adapted by societies emerging from its ruins. In this sense, Rome never truly ended. It fragmented, evolved, and lived on in the languages, laws, and aspirations of civilizations that followed. The Roman Empire remains one of history's most studied subjects because of the questions it raises about power, identity, and human ambition. Its achievements were extraordinary, its failures profound, and its legacy undeniable. To understand Rome is to understand much of what came after. If you enjoyed this journey through history, give this video a like and subscribe for more. And to explore how another nation shaped the course of history, click here to watch the entire history of Germany,